Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, come all to the Thursday edition of Raiders Daily, live on Bleacher Reporter, after the fact on YouTube, wherever you're watching. Thank you so much for coming back and watching another tight 30 minutes on the Raiders. A lot of positivity these last few months, I'd say, since they hired Pete Carroll, since John Spytek brought in a couple free agents, re-signed Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz. The draft was a massive success on paper, but I'm not here to be the eternal optimist. And as I lay awake at night at like 3 in the morning and just think about, you know, random nonsense, one of the things that crossed my mind a couple nights ago was, is this defense good enough to be able to compete at the level we want to? Because obviously everyone's excited that Pete Carroll's here and he's going to change things and turn around the team and the franchise and the culture is going to be different. And I do believe that. But it didn't happen overnight in Seattle, right? Even the Beastquake game where they won a playoff game against the Saints, that team was 7-9. So we're going to talk about the defense. We're going to talk about all the concerns. If you have questions or comments after the fact on YouTube, let me know in the comments section. I'll be reading those all the time. I got some people in the chat here already active. Too rare to die. They sure aren't getting any love. Ranked 27th. Oh, sorry, 29th. You're talking about the defense. We got Feet. We got Jay Slow, 1014, who says, I won't be able to tune in tomorrow, Rod. I'll check you on YouTube when I get home. Son is a flag football game championship. You're dead to me. You're absolutely dead to me if you're not watching live. Just kidding. Just kidding. No worries, man. Go get that championship. You know what I'm saying? Let's do better than maybe the Celtics are doing. Not to take a shot at any Celtics people out there, but I live with the Celtics fan. He's right behind this wall, and it's kind of giving me a little bit of joy. Anyway, the defense. I'm actually going to do something a little different here. I'm going to put out a poll initially, and I'm going to let this run for a while because I want to see how this poll might progress. Now, I don't know if you can change what option you vote for. Someone let me know that, but I'm interested. I'm going to throw this out here right in the beginning, and I want to see how people are feeling. Are you concerned with the defense? And now, as we break this down, I'm going to bring up some articles. I want you guys also tell me specifically in the comments, what are your thoughts on specific groups and areas of concern? Because I've got thoughts of my own here. And I do believe in Patrick Graham's ability to coach people up. Even last year, when we weren't great, we were able to compete with a lot of backups and third stringers. Now, I did mention last year, so let me just bring it up right now. I think I have it here. Oh, yeah. So I did a little Googling here, a little bit of research, nothing crazy. And what I found is that the Raiders' defense last year, not that great. So in 2024, and this the source is Fox Sports and Bleacher Report. This is the AI overview, but it's sourced out correctly. In 2024, the Raiders' defense ranked 29th in total defense. Not good. 26th against the pass, 24th against the run, and in scoring defense. They were 27th in pass rush win rate. However, they performed well against the run, giving up 97.8 yards per game, which was the fourth fewest in the league, and that was without Christian Wilkins. So right off the bat, we're not coming off of the most successful season defensive-wise. Offensively, we were a nightmare too, which is why you win only 4 games. The problem is the defense wasn't that great last year, right? And we lost a lot of people. Which now, when we hop right into this ESPN article by Ryan McFadden, this was posted today, I believe, May 8th, 6 a.m. Ryan was posting this stuff early. He asks the question, did the Raiders do enough to plug the holes on defense? So let's see the little breakdown here, and I want to see how this poll progresses because right now, nobody's not concerned about the defense. Everybody's at least concerned or saying it's too early to tell. So it starts off by saying, Las Vegas Raiders defense took a significant hit this offseason. Sure, the team retained defensive tackles Adam Butler, while players such as Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, and Christian Wilkins are all returning from injury, but they lost 6 starters on that side of the ball, most notably safety Trayvon Merrick, linebacker Robert Spillane, and corner Nate Hobbs. Las Vegas general manager John Spytek knew it would be hard retaining these players due to them getting larger deals from other teams in what Spytek referred to as being intelligently aggressive. The Raiders filled those holes with veterans on inexpensive deals and used the draft to add depth at the defensive line. Although I will say I was surprised at how much we hit the offense during the draft. I thought it would be a little more 50-50 skew defense offense. We went like probably like 70-30 offense, which was interesting to me. There's a larger question mark hanging over the inside linebacker position. At the same time, cornerback is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing position battles to monitor throughout the Raiders offseason program and training camp. Here is a look at where the Raiders defense stands ahead of rookie minicamp. So we kind of broke down, the depth chart a couple weeks ago. So I'll just read what he says about each position group. Wilkins' first season in Las Vegas was cut short after he underwent surgery for a Jones fracture in his left foot. And I think he did that jumping over Max Crosby in celebration. Please don't do that again. If he can return to full health, Wilkins and Butler will be a strong duo up front. Butler had one of his best seasons in 2024, collecting 5 sacks and 65 tackles. Rookies Tonka Hemingway and J.J. Pegues have the potential to carve out a rotational role as both players provide interior pass rushing ability. Last season, Hemingway pressured 18 times and with 4 sacks from South Carolina. At Ole Miss, Pegues had 21 pressures, 3.5 sacks. This year, you watch the tape. It's unique. Raiders Director of College Scouting Brandon Jurgen said of Pegues. He's playing on the end. He's playing inside. He's over the nose. And then he's obviously playing the short yardage fullback, wildcat quarterback, tight end. He's unique athletic traits. We'll see what he does for us. Excited about having him here. Okay, so I want to talk about that position group in particular. And I need to know this right now. Does anybody out there have any idea if Christian Wilkins is actually still hurt? Because there was a report that came out that said Wilkins might miss significant amount of 2025 season because he had to get another foot surgery for the fracture. And then some people said, no, that's not true. That's fake news. But then he was on Max Crosby's podcast, The Rush, during the NFL draft a couple weeks ago, and he was in a walking boot still, which would suggest that he did get a surgery at the very least. I don't know how serious that surgery would be. But that is cause for legitimate concern. And the reason why I think that he actually might be hurt is because we took 2 defensive tackles, Pegues and Hemingway, and re-signed Butler. So if Wilkins goes down, we have Butler, and we have one of those 2 guys to maybe carve out a role alongside Crosby and Kuntz and Adam Butler. If Wilkins is 100% healthy, the defensive tackle position mixed with the defensive line, we'll talk about the line too, is not that much of an area of concern for me. I do think we'll be able to continue to play the run out pretty well, and we'll be able to get to the passer relatively consistently. I think the problem, and we'll get into it right now, lies in the secondary. On the second level, in almost every single position. Now, I talked a little bit about defensive end. He doesn't have a lot to say here because it's going to be pretty good. But he does say Crosby and Kuntz should be a formidable pass rush duo. Kuntz missed the entire 24 season with a torn ACL, but flashed his potential in 2023 when he had 8 sacks and a pass rush win rate of 17.6. The team is still waiting for Tyrie Wilson, the 7th overall pick in 2023, to be more consistent. Perhaps he makes another leap in year 3. So I do want to talk about Tyrie Wilson for a second here because I'm going to end this poll. Let's see. Are you concerned with the Raiders defense? 67% say yes. I do agree with you guys. Let me look at the chat here before I get into Tyrie Wilson. So we see, I think we're good at safety. I love Chin. I think Polomal will be good. We'll talk about safety in a little bit. If he was in any kind of boot, he wouldn't be doing any limited workout at all. Listen to the guy is in photos working out, probably limited, but he's still working out. I think it's fake news. Okay, so if he was working out in a limited capacity, that does mean that he is probably going to be good by the time the season starts, which is significant for our defense. No doubt about it. We need him to play. We paid him a lot of money. We need him to be on the field. Something that I also think we do need to talk about, and something that we almost need to work out, is Tyrie Wilson. This guy was, the 7th pick in the draft. If he can take another step. Now, it took Kuntz about 2.5-ish years. The difference with Kuntz was that he was like a day 2 pick. He was a pick that we took in the 3rd round. This is like history repeating itself. We took Tyrie Wilson really high, Kuntz in the 3rd round, and Kuntz ends up being way better than Tyrie Wilson. It's the same thing with Max Crosby and Cleveland Ferrell. Now, Tyrie Wilson has been good against the run. He's played a little bit of D tackle, which is interesting. Maybe he could slide in there if Wilkins still is a little hurt, or these rookies aren't as good as we want them to be rotationally. If he can take that next step to be a one-on-one pass rushing threat, if we can rotate him in and get Crosby a little break every now and again, and get Kuntz a little break every now and again, I think there's a chance that this defense can be slightly better than what is being predicted. Because what's being predicted, you know, lower third of the league, I think is completely fair. Feet says, is Wilson Farrell 2.0? I think he may need a change of scenery and get traded. Well, let me ask you guys this, because we're talking about him right now before we get into the rest of the positional groups. Do you think, make the prediction, does Tyrie Wilson make the jump to be some version, 80% worthy of where we drafted him at 7 overall? Because right now, I just don't see how that's possible. There's one thing that makes me think it's slightly possible. And that one thing is Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is the orchestrator of one of the greatest defenses of our generation, the Legion of Boom. Pete Carroll, mixed with Rob Leonard and Patrick Graham, maybe could be the key to unlocking the potential of Tyrie Wilson. Now, if it's just a matter of scheme and coaching, I do think there's a chance he could take that leap. But if it's a matter of skill and talent or hard work, I'm not saying he's not a hard worker. I'm sure he is a hard worker. For all accounts that I've heard about him, is that he is a hard worker. But if it's skill or talent, he might have maxed out as just like a role player, and it was a bad pick, which is really unfortunate. I think give the staff a chance to work with him to see if they can get anything out of him. I think that's kind of where I'm at there. His get off is too slow. Yeah, I would like him to be a little faster. If anything, Pete can make him look better to trade. Yeah. I don't think there's any harm in giving him one last chance here, before his fifth-year option comes up, which is not going to get picked up at this point. They'll let him walk or trade him way before they think about picking up his fifth-year option. But if he hasn't learned from playing with and next to Max since the beginning, or since he's been here, I don't see it working out. I don't disagree with you. Unfortunately, I do think it's more likely than not that he doesn't take that next jump. So we're going to end that poll right there. I agreed with the poll there. Okay, so let's get back into it. Linebacker, big time area of concern for me. Although I keep forgetting Devin White's on this roster. Although he's not that great anymore, he's somebody at least. Linebacker remains an area of concern. I agree, Ryan. At the moment, White and Roberts are starters. White has been a shell of the player he was in All-Pro selection. Sorry, who was in All-Pro selection? That's a burp. Excuse me, and helped the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win a Super Bowl during the 2020 season. Since 2023, he has recorded 102 tackles and 2.5 sacks in 21 games. Carroll, however, has high expectations for the 27-year-old. Devin White, what a story he's going to be, and he's a fantastic addition to our team. Okay, Pete Carroll, I didn't hear him say that. That's interesting. Meanwhile, Landon Roberts has struggled in pass coverage. He allowed a pass rating of 102 and a 77.8 completion percentage in 2024. Outside of both players, the depth is questionable. Las Vegas has to rely on players like Gainer. I just combined Amari Gainer and Amari Burney. Gainer, Burney, and Eichenberg to elevate their play. Yeah, I'm concerned about linebacker. We've always had not great linebackers, but this is going to have to be Pete Carroll, right? Maybe Pete will do that move on him and make him move to linebacker. That's interesting. This is going to have to be the Pete Carroll special. Can he coach these guys up? Does he really believe in Devin White? I mean, he says he does, and I don't think he's a liar. I just don't know if he's right on that. Can he bring Devin White to, again, we don't need him to be that all-pro, but can he be, 70%, 60% of what he was in Tampa Bay? I would take that in a heartbeat. I want a linebacker during June 1st cuts. Well, that's coming up, and we're going to have a lot of money to be able to spend to get those guys. A little less money now that Ashton Genty signed his contract, but I digress. Cornerback, Nickelback. Look at this photograph. Anyway, Nickelback remains a significant need for Las Vegas. Holmes has experience at the position but lacks starter reps. It wouldn't hurt the Raiders to explore the free agent market and bring in a veteran to compete for the role. Jacorian Bennett and Eric Stokes are projected starters on the outside. Don't love that. Don't love Eric Stokes starting, but it is what it is. While Porter, a third-round pick, has all the traits that Carroll values in a corner, he is raw and only started in 7 career games at Iowa State. Still, that shouldn't hurt him from competing for meaningful playing time. That's probably because we don't have that many corners to compete with. Porter recorded 3 interceptions and allowed a completion percentage of 26.7 on 15 targets and 192 covered snaps for the Cyclones in 2024. When you see Darian, he attacks the football really comfortably, Carroll said. And that means he's at ease when the ball is coming. And so I don't think he had a penalty last year. That's a huge accomplishment for him playing out there. Corner, I talked about this a little bit. It's another area of concern. I'm less concerned about corner than I am at linebacker because I do think with Malcolm healthy and with Christian Wilkins healthy, Feet wants Jair Alexander so bad. We talked about Jalen Ramsey as well. With the interior and exterior defensive line healthy, I do think will be able to generate a pass rush consistently enough to be able to make up for the deficiencies we have at that nickel corner position. I think Ja'Cory Bennett's going to be a CB1 in this league. Stokes does nothing for me, positive or negatively. He just feels like a body that's sometimes going to be good, sometimes going to be bad. I'm happy we don't have Jack Jones anymore to just go boom or bust in every single play. He's either having a pick six or he's getting pit. It's like that one Trayvon Diggs year where he had an interception, but he got burned like 9 times in 8 games. So while corner is a position where, look, Jair Alexander, I don't hate it. Jalen Ramsey, I don't hate it. All for the right price. It's not as concerning because I do think, we can manufacture some pressure. Now, if we have to start blitzing people, that's going to be a problem because I don't trust these corners to hold during that blitzing area. It's not going to exactly be the Chiefs blitzing with Spagnuolo calling the plays every time. And this is also going to be an interesting year for Patrick Graham, who got a raise to stay here instead of maybe taking a raise to go be a defensive coordinator somewhere else or getting a head coaching job. I know he interviews with Jacksonville and the Giants, I think, at one point. Or no, he came from the Giants. I think that's right. Can PG get the most out of these guys? And also, just to be clear, like I said before, it took the Seahawks a year or two to become the Seahawks we knew them to be under Pete Carroll. The Legion of Boom with Danger Russ and Marshawn Lynch and Doug Baldwin and Golden Tate and all these guys. It did not happen overnight. So, while I would love to see a Washington Commanders type flip of the script for us, that doesn't necessarily mean because we got Pete Carroll that it's just going to like that. You have to play the hand you're dealt. And we lost a lot of free agents on the defensive side of the ball. We improved in some areas, mostly on the offensive side. But, this is the reality of the situation. It's something that we're going to have to reckon with if the defense doesn't play as well as we want to. And we end up going 8-9 because we had the 24th best defense in the league. Safety, we talked about a little, but let's wrap this up here. I think it's the last position we have to talk about. Chin provides a ton of versatility. I think he's honestly just as good as Trayvon Merrick for a little bit cheaper. In Washington, he lined up at strong safety and linebacker. Maybe they'll play him at a little linebacker, go Isaiah Polamau and Lonnie Johnson or Trey Taylor back there. Chin will make his presence felt in the run game. He was tied for 7th among safeties with 29 or 26 run stops. That tackles that they resulted in a successful play for the defense. Chin and Polamau might see some snaps at nickel as well. Polamau is coming off a career season, totaling 89 tackles and 5 passes defense. I love Isaiah Polamau. Oh, did I have a Tyrie Wilson article? Okay, well, we're going to circle back to Tyrie Wilson because I do want to talk about him, and I had that article. Not a lot to say on the safety side. I'm cool with what we got safety-wise. I like Jeremy Chin. I like Polamau. I even like Lonnie Johnson and Trey Taylor coming off the bench. And if they're going to play that pseudo nickel linebacker, sub-linebacker role, Jeremy Chin that could help out the struggling linebacker position. So that's a area that I think is turning out to be a little bit of a positive. All right. So I totally forgot I had a Sports Illustrated article. Go back in time about 5 minutes. So when I was talking about Tyrie Wilson making that jump, and we're going to read a little bit. Oh, it is who is it? It is Michael Canello 9 hours ago. Raiders defensive end Tyrie Wilson entering massive year. So let's see. And while I read this, I want predictions. Is Tyrie Wilson on the roster post-trade deadline? And if he's on the roster all 17 games, how many sacks does he have? What's his total? In fact, I want to hear defensive total predictions for everybody. I want to see how many interceptions you think Ja'Cory Benner will have. I want to see how many sacks you think Max Crosby will have. How many pass defenses does Landon Roberts have? Put that all in the live chat here or after the fact in the YouTube comments. I'm going to read them all. I want to see what you guys are saying. Okay, Las Vegas Raiders defensive end Tyrie Wilson will be entering his money year. Wilson will have to do what he can Wilson has to do what he can fully do now. That's an interesting way to word that. That a new regime is here. If he does not, he can be on his way out in Las Vegas. Okay, so let's see. Las Vegas Raiders are heading into a whole new direction in 2025. The Raiders now have a veteran head coach in Pete Carroll who will lead the way on and off the field, giving the silver and black, hopefully, the stability they've been looking for head coach. Okay, we all know this. Okay, let's get to Tyrie Wilson. Raiders defensive end Tyrie Wilson is one of those players who have to show what he can do on the defensive side of the ball. Wilson has had all the chances to get well, and now in 2025, it has all come together. Wilson has all the tools to be dominant. Armando Carpenter talked about Wilson heading into the 2025 season on his latest episode of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Tyrie Wilson, this is one of those expectations on the year 3 money rule, said Carpenter. When the Raiders picked him, he was coming off a brutal injury, and the Raiders' mindset with him and other teams that were looking at him was that the rookie was going to have a redshirt year. That's interesting. Bringing him in, the mindset was his money year is going to be year 4. Last season, I thought he was impressive. He was healthy. He showed speed. He was tenacious. I thought his technique was better. Could clearly see some growth, and they agreed, by the way. I do think in year one thing that helped him when he did play better, obviously, was when he was the most healthy, even though he was not anywhere near 100%, is when Patrick Graham moved him on the inside, which is what I mentioned, that he played a little bit inside defensive tackle. Hondo says this is going to be a good year for him. This is going to be a big year for him. And the healthier he is, the better he is. He has worked hard. And I have heard that about Tyrie Wilson, that he is a hard worker. But again, it just comes down to skill. Like, how much of how bad he was, or not bad, how much of how unproductive he was his rookie year was that injury, and how much of it was his inability to just play the position consistently. I'm a little worried about Tyrie Wilson. Just being honest with you. My mouth is like particularly dry today. Do I need to go to the doctor? I don't know. Tyrie will be on the team. He'll have 5.5 sacks. That would be a monster year for him. It would be a pretty good year, 5.5 sacks, because you imagine what Kuntz is going to have like 8-ish, and Max is going to have like 13-ish, and Wilkins will have like 7-ish if he's healthy. I don't disagree. But overall, before we transition to one offensive player that I'm excited to talk about, I think the concerns that I have and that we all have about the defense are completely valid. And it's just going to come down to, like, do we have to accept the reality that we're just kind of like an average roster right now that is building for the future? Because we just had a season where we won 4 games, and a lot of those defensive guys were hurt, and a lot of them are gone now. We've improved so much. But does that mean even just doubling up your wins is a successful season because you go to 4-8? I think we might have to reconcile with something like that. I mean, the schedule comes out a week from yesterday, I think. It comes out this coming Wednesday, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I know Mo's going to have – yeah. It is Wednesday because Mo's going to have a special live stream where he's talking about every game. Maybe Friday I'll do some predictions on the schedule. Maybe we'll do that at the end of Friday's episode tomorrow. I don't hate that. He'll have trouble playing every game if Max and Kuntz are healthy. Maybe he can be our Kalen Chason. Another guy we lost, by the way, Kalen Chason. Draymond Green got hit in the face. Oh, no, he hit. Draymond Green got another technical foul. This is not a Warriors podcast, I'll tell you that much. I'm not going to talk about that. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball, and somebody that we drafted that's just every time I read about him and watch interviews with him, I get a little more interested in him, and that's Tommy Mellott. Tommy Mellott was obviously a late day 3 pick. He was a quarterback from Montana State, and I will say this. I don't have many connections, but I do have somebody that's very close to me that works in college football at a high level, and I was, as you guys are well aware, at a wedding during the NFL draft on day 3, and where we were had no service. So I couldn't see who we were drafting, what was going on. There was a Raider fan there, and he said, "Hey, we drafted Cam Miller and Tommy Mellott and all these guys. Didn't really know much about them, whatever." I start driving after the wedding's over, and I get a text from my buddy who works in college football and says, "Tommy Mellott," all exclamation points. I said, "What about him?" And he said, "Kid's a freak. He's a dog. You're going to love him." That's the first person he texted me about. It wasn't Ashton Genty. It wasn't Darian Porter. It wasn't Dante Thornton. It was Tommy Mellott. So I was like, okay, let me do some research on Tommy Mellott. Obviously, quarterback. Not going to play quarterback. The Julian Edelman type, the archetype. That's what everyone's talking about. If anything, This kid can potentially become that featured kick/punt returner that we've been searching for since Jacoby Ford. Remember Jacoby Ford? He was like Devin Hester for like a season and a half. He had like 9 touchdowns. Gus Johnson, streaking down the sideline, touchdown rate. It was unbelievable what that kid was doing. And since then, we haven't had, since maybe Dwayne Harris, somebody who can be remotely impactful returning kicks and punts. And now with these new rules that are basically forcing teams to bring these kicks back, you're going to need to find someone to make an impact. So I got an article here about old Tommy Mellott, and I want to get into it because I think this is a sneaky kid who can make an impact. I'm not going to call him the steal of the draft or whatever, but it's just an interesting player that we drafted. And when my boy texted me, Tommy Mellott, you're going to love this kid, it made me take him a little bit more seriously because that was the one guy I got texted about. Unique Raiders rookie Tommy Mellott could see time at wide receiver, kick returner, and quarterback. That's also the Taysom Hill type. Las Vegas Raiders hope they drafted their version of Julian Edelman in the 6th round of the 2025 NFL Draft. During the draft process, Tommy Mellott was repeatedly compared to Edelman, the recent named New England Patriots Club Hall of Famer, as a player who can convert from quarterback to wideout at the pro level. At FCS, Mellott spent 4 years in Montana State, leading the Bobcats to 2 Big Sky titles. 4 FCS playoff berths. Mellott won the 2024 Walter Payton Award for Most Outstanding FCS Player. I think Cam Miller came in second, which is funny. While he was called a quarterback when drafted, the expectation is that Mellott will play a slash type role. He's expected to learn wide receiver and also contribute on special teams. If he earns a spot on the game day active roster, his throwing ability could be a trick play threat. I wouldn't pigeonhole him right now. Raiders college scouting director Brandon Jurgen said, I would say we view him as a wide receiver that's going to have a lot of value in the kicking game, potentially as a returner, as a cover player, maybe play some quarterback too. We're looking at him really as an athlete/receiver, but he's a unique guy. The man affectionately known as Touchdown Tommy. Oh, please score this year. I'd love to call you that. The locals rank 2nd in rushing touchdowns, 3rd in rushing yards, 5th in passing touchdowns, and 5th in passing yards in Montana State history. I mean, this kid is interesting to say the least. Mellott's pre-draft workout, and by the way, I have him in my dynasty league for fantasy football. Mellott's pre-draft workout garnered attention, including from the Raiders, as clubs gushed over his athletic profile. The 5'11" ran the 40-yard dash, 4.39 seconds, 41-inch vertical, and a broad jump of 10 feet 4 inches. A playmaker with the ball in his hands, the rookie could carve out a role in special teams off the bat. The Butte, Montana native spent months leading up to the draft developing his wide receiver skills, anticipating NFL teams would view him as more of a playmaker, less as a QB. I appreciate that he did that. My entire career in college, to be honest with you, has kind of been a do-it-all individual as well. And so that's what I'm going to be about when I get down to Las Vegas, is a do-it-all kind of guy who's obviously perfect for his craft. Well, okay. The Raiders drafted, yeah, we understand that. Vegas minority owner Tom Brady knows firsthand what it took for Edelman to make the transition from quarterback to wide receiver and produce at a high level. The Raiders are hoping they can replicate that feat with Tommy Touchdown. Or Touchdown Tommy? I already forgot what it was. So here's my question as we wrap this up. Is it worth even asking? I don't know. Where does Tommy Mellott make an impact? This is a kid that is just going to be on the field, I think, a lot. So what are we thinking? Special teams only? Sparingly on offense? Could he be the wide receiver 3 by the end of the year? What if it's Jacoby Myers, Jack Besh, Tommy Mellott? I don't foresee him jumping Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton, but stranger things have happened. And Hunter Renfrow was like a 5th round pick, I think. And by the way, did you see that report that Hunter Renfrow was sick? He dropped like 150 pounds, which is why he had to like hang it up for a year. I did not know that. I'm so sorry that happened, but I'm happy that he's back in the league. Kind of wish we re-signed him, but it is what it is. I do think right now the impact that he makes, I think he could be on the field on offense. Now, I'm not going to let this turn into Dylan Laube because we saw Dylan Laube play a little bit in the preseason. We were like, this kid's Christian McCaffrey 2.0. I mean, he's wearing the number 23. He's going to be a stud. And then he had like 2 rushes, and one of them was a fumble. And he returned like 1 decent kick. Like, I'm not going to let the Tommy Mellott fever, seep into my veins. But I will say, interesting to keep an eye on, especially for those dynasty sleeper leagues. Maybe go pick him up. If you can stash him on the taxi squad, we got 4 slots. So I got him. I got Jack Besh as well. You know it. If there's young Raiders that can make an impact, I got him on my team. Anyway, Move the chains, Tommy, our new, younger, faster Hunter Renfrow. No doubt about it. Thank you so much for watching, joining me live here. I will be back 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about some schedule predictions. I think that'll be the main topic because by the next time I see you on Thursday, the schedule will have come out. So I'm excited to see what we're going to do there. If you're watching live on Bleacher Report, thank you so much for joining me live. If you're watching After the Fact on YouTube, hit that like button, comment away, and please be sure to subscribe. It's free after. No charges to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.